us before I arrived here myself. I moved here from Nigeria in 2019, so I'm pretty new here and very appreciative of the amazing people in this land and amazing keepers of this land and the amazing work that's been happening and ongoing in this place. And I'm so honored to be sharing this space with you all. And just before we dive in, just to center our attentions on our intent, I've been formed to just share a little bit about grants and ask a few questions. Not that I'm a pro in grant writing or in the field of grants. I'm pretty new in the world of grants, but both as an artist and as an arts administrator, I've gained quite a number of experiences, and I'm still learning because I get shocked every time. There's always something new, so I'm honored to be sharing space with you all. Just a quick question, how many artists do we have in the house today? Yeah, almost everybody. And then how many record labels? One. Amazing. That's scarce. And non-profit arts organizations? Amazing. 3. Okay, any other thing I haven't mentioned?
I'm a music teacher.
Oh, awesome, awesome. Any other music teachers in the house? Yes, nice to meet you all. And then curators, you curating just as an individual person, but you curate and bring people together to create experiences in your local neighborhood or anywhere. Anyone? Awesome. Yeah. It's amazing how much work we do in the arts. Before today used to be I just always thought it was just music performance, and it was just always, labels and then record, label services company. But today there's so many fields in the arts and so many. Yeah, if I could just pick 3 people to ask, or just 3 people volunteer, what are you hoping to get from this session? What are you looking to? Yes, please.
Better understanding of the wording and the way to phrase grant writing.
Awesome.
So I've heard a number of times from other people who have this type of grants that the way you word them and the way that you kind of intentionally story tell your grant is a big boon in how you, if you get a grant or not.
Awesome, storytelling. Good. Okay, thank you, please.
I just want to know the difference between music grants and other types of grants, because I come from a theater and film background, and music is still fairly new to me. So I don't really know a lot about where the money comes from in this industry. I just know I know for film, I know where that comes from. I know for theater where that comes from, but then music, I'm I don't know. So learning more about where the money's coming from and what a grant, maybe even a pitch would look like. First, if you're writing a grant to CADA or some other institution, and knowing what we have to say and what they're asking from us to give us money.
Awesome. So where does the money for theater grants come from?
It comes from the same place, but it's just a different way you write it. That's kind of all. And sometimes theater grants can also come from, there's other arts institutions that will fund for theater sometimes too, and a lot of stuff like that. But yeah, music is, from what I know, music has a lot of similarities to that, but I also don't really know, so that's why I'm here to learn.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing. Anyone else? What you're hoping to get from here? Yes, please.
Just some online resources, because I know the grants have changed over the years. I used to go to things like this in my 20s. I'm well past that in my 40s. But just to see the change over the years, and a lot of it is the same, but I mean, just to get some more resources, so the proper websites, the proper channels, because sometimes you do look for those things on your own, but a lot of times there's other companies that are trying to get in there first so they can take part of it and things like that. So it's great, always great to know to go directly to the source and stuff like that.
Right. Would you be referring to sub-granting organizations or foundations?
I think we worked with Factor back in the Factor grants even. So well before your time.
Yes. I admit, that's fine.
That's good.
All right, so just a little bit about me. I currently work with Calgary Arts Development Authority, and I'm kind of, like I mentioned, I'm a little new to the grants world, but I'm very, very inquisitive and so many questions. I always have questions about grants, but I've learned a lot as well, and I still have a lot to learn before moving to Canada. I mean, I moved here in 2019, and I've worked with Steinway Piano Gallery in administration before I ever came into grants again. But while I was in Nigeria, I also worked with a non-profit. It's called the Musical Society of Nigeria, and that's one of the premier organizations that was a non-profit, a very leading organization in the arts industry in Nigeria, from owning and housing and funding a 60-piece symphony orchestra and also a 40-piece choir, running a school of music. There was just so much broad work going in there, and I was in charge of programming, events, liaising with artists, also donors and sponsors and members. So my portfolio was really heavy, and like in Nigeria, different from here, you're doing 10 things at the same time. But it was so much fun, it was fast-paced, and I really enjoyed it. And it was really challenging, but I learned a lot. And part of that is working with artists, working with corporate organizations to bring together programs and all of that before moving here. So moving here and seeing, and in Nigeria I never heard of grants, that's a funny thing. And that's why I feel blessed to be here and to see that there is provision for artists. While I was in Nigeria, I never heard the word grant. Like I never knew there was anything like that. But when I was here, I researched and I found out there was something provided by the Goethe Institute. So if you had to perform in Germany, they would fund your travel. But other than that, there's nothing like that. So here, getting to know that there is provision for artists, for creators in the industry, I feel it's a blessing, really. And even at that, so many people have not been able to access grants. So many people don't even want to try, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
It totally makes sense.
That's huge, because people it's scary and they think, oh, I can't do it, but you can, and it's out there, and yes, if you keep at it, you'll get the money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've met artists who'd be like, no, I don't even want to go there. I don't want to feel disappointed. I don't want to, try, spend my energy. And I've met people who, even after support, they still don't get it. There's so many factors. First of all, I feel like COVID brought about a lot more artists in the industry. Today we have more artists, and all the granting organizations are talking about the same thing. You're getting more numbers. The number of applicants has risen by 50% plus. You see many more artists spring up, and everyone, they've either been artists before and gave it up and went into regular jobs, but when COVID came and everyone was like, oh, I remember, I used to be an artist, and everyone's going back to the arts. So the number is high, the competition is high. Not to say there's scarcity, but the reality is there is some type of scarcity at the same time, because there's so many artists, only so much funding. So how do we break that piece? So let's talk about that and what CADA's role is in the granting world, which is where I'm representing, and I can definitely answer questions about other funders. As an artist myself, my artistic practice is music. I'm a saxophonist, also curator for myself and for a couple of friends. And so I put up concerts. My most recent project was working with the Calgary Jazz Orchestra for my third and final series concerts, and I think I played with you too. He's an amazing violinist. I played with the Keith Orchestra last year, so I put up concerts and I released my debut album this year. So it's, as an artist in Canada and fairly new here, I've also I've been blessed by the support of grants. I've also been turned down, and I can't lie to you that when I got the email and I just thought, unfortunately, I literally just shut it down. I didn't read any further because due to the amount of applications received and this and that, unfortunately, your application cannot be funded. So I've also seen that email, and I can tell you that I don't read further. Once I see that unsuccessful or unfortunately, I'm done reading that email. So I don't even go looking for feedback because it hurts. And sometimes I don't even have time to review and say, okay, maybe I made some mistakes, maybe I can improve. I'm done with that. But at the same time, I've also received 2 grants from Canada Council, one from Calgary Arts before I ever started working with them. So it's good to have that support. It's good to know that this support exists. And it's also good to know how to access that support. And I quickly talk about, so our vision at CADA is a creative connected Calgary through the arts where everyone is empowered to live a creative life. And Calgary Arts Development, as we know, it's like civic partner with the city. And does anyone know, I mean, I know you mentioned you know where grants come from or where they come from. Anyone knows where this money comes from? Does anyone know? Can anyone tell? Yes?
Just a guess, but is it a budget that's been earmarked by the municipality?
Correct.
The mayor sets a certain amount to donate to art projects?
Yes. And where does it come from?
Taxes.
Do you pay taxes?
No.
You don't? We all pay taxes somehow. So it's like you are contributing to that. You are all part of that. At first, as a new immigrant here, I was so skeptical to think about grants. I'm like, would they come back for the money? Or am I eligible for this funding? Do I deserve this money? At some point, because of where I'm coming from, it felt like, am I begging for money at the same time? But knowing and understanding that grant money comes from, obviously, taxpayers. And so that reserves part of things that fixes the roads, all the things you see, infrastructure and everything. So, like he said, a portion is earmarked for artists, because it is tough to be an artist. I think we did a survey a few years ago and realized most artists end really below par, and that's the income artists earn isn't measurable. It's not something you can say, oh, they're doing so well. So grant money is available to enable artists continue to create, continue to write, continue to, because it takes a lot. You have to go away to residencies, go away to sites and create and produce and all of that, and still market your work and still promote that work. So it's not to say that the engineers and the construction workers and the firefighters are not doing all the work, doing amazing work either. But the art is something that's available to everyone too. There's no difference, but in that sense, however, the art is so, like we say, it just enables the entire citizens to engage and come out and experience something really beautiful. Because that's creativity that's you almost cannot pay for. So grants are available to support artists continue to create. There are some artists who will never do a project except there's grants. And it's not because they don't want to. It is expensive. They probably cannot afford that on their own. So it's important that these grants exist. So I'll quickly speak about what CADA do. So this is what you see when you go on our website. And I know for a lot of people, I've reached out to people, they're like, when I go on your website, it's really crazy. I don't know what to do. And yes, I agree with you. The team is currently working to improve and make it easily or better accessible. So you just go straight to grant investment programs, and it shows you all the programs we do. I would say in 3 categories. We have programs for artists, individual artists, and collectives. So whether you're a band or a musician, it also, as an artist, you can also be a curator. You are not the artist, but you're bringing artists together to create something or to build something or to put up a show or whatever it is. You're not the art. You're just curating an experience. You can also apply to the project grant for individuals and collectives. We also have the artist development microgrant. On the other side, we have the program for organizations. So if you record label, however, with our organization, with CADA, different from Factor, you have to be a nonprofit. That's with CADA. So if you're not a nonprofit, you have to show that you're really, really working for the artists, that this is about the artist, that this is about the artistic work, and you're collaborating with artists. So that's when it's possible to apply for our grant programs. We have the new one, the Future Focus, project grant for organizations, which is once a year, and we also have the operating grant for new nonprofits. So if some organization gets for the entire year, for 2 years, and you don't even have to reapply. Once you get it, it goes on for 2 years. I'm just going to give a rough ride through it, because just so you pick what you want. And again, by the end, you see there are ways to get more information and more connections. And finally, we have the one, Original People's Investment Programs, Indigenous Microgrant. That's programs for Indigenous artists and organizations. And whether or not you get grants from the Indigenous programs, you're still eligible to apply for the regular program. So it doesn't cut you off and say you're just there. No, you can get, if you're eligible, if you're an Indigenous artist, if you're running an Indigenous organization, then you can apply for both different projects, different work, different things you're working on. So yeah, and there are other ways you can also participate within the grant sector, especially for those who are terrified of grants, who've never tried it before. You know, you can serve as a member of jury, or we call them assessment committees in CADA, and I find that that's super helpful, because you come on the other side. You get to read up to 30 applications. By the time you've read 30 applications, and then you sit with other assessors and you talk about these applications, there's no way you're coming off without a little more about what's helpful, what's better, what's easier, what's understandable, and writing a very comprehensible grant application. I feel like it's an easier access to understanding the entire process. Yes, this is the reality. Last year, coming from, and that's why I say post-pandemic, in 2021 we saw about 100 to 200 applications for the individual program. 2022 we got about 300 and something, and then this year we saw 523, I think, applications. That's huge, and that doesn't mean our budget has risen at that rate. So you have more. So that the truth is, it's valid to feel like your grant may not be accepted. But then what if? There are just a few things to check, and we can talk about that briefly as we go. And I know questions, and you can also throw in your questions. Is funding sufficient? No, it isn't, and that's why whatever possible means or ways you're able to advocate or reach out or do whatever you can to support the process, you're welcome to do so. Who decides? As I mentioned, it could be you. So they're all assessment committees, artists, curators, art administrators, just anyone who understands a little bit and has an interest in the arts can be on the committee. You get a little bit of a training, and then you jump right into it, reading and sharing your views. And it's not as if we don't come together and say, oh, we're about to smash applications. We're coming with an intention to steward that fund, to ensure that we do it the best way we can to make it equitable. Can it ever really, really be fully equitable? It's a tough one. It's a really, really, really tough place to be in. But we do our best. With that, do barriers exist? Yes. Yes, please.
Sorry, how many people decide?
So we have 5 to 7 committee members per committee, depending on. So for like the program I just finished with the 4 organizations, we saw about 93 applications, and that's last year we had about 82 applications. This year we saw 93, and these are from nonprofit or arts organizations specifically. And for each committee, we have 3 different committees. Some had 5 members, 6 members, 7 members at the most. Just so,
A
yeah.
few people, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We try to make it balanced so that in terms of scoring, there are better chances for the musicians. The barriers exist, yes. For some, language is a challenge, and that's why when I think someone said it has to be story, right, in form of a story. Yes, you said that. You actually don't owe us to write it like a story. You don't have to write it like a story. We don't, and that part of things we encourage assessors not to look out for. Not everyone is a storyteller in that sense, to be able to write it that way for you. And so assessors are encouraged to open up their hearts and, read between the lines, find the answers somewhere. Even sometimes you see people write, their answers are within the application, but in different spots. And it's really tough for assessors, but we encourage them to be patient with applications and find the answer. So you do not owe us to have to write a story or, write it like a story. But yes, it definitely makes it easier for assessors to comprehend and understand. Yes, please?
Do you know if in the order that applications are received is the way that they're reviewed?
Not at all.
No.
No, because we do not have like a rolling deadline per se. We have one deadline. Like for instance, we had the project grant which we closed in August. We received applications early in July. We don't touch them. We don't even. If I go in to take a look at them, it's just to make sure that all the links are working, all the attachments and supporting documents are clear. Other than that, there's absolutely nothing. We don't do anything with those. And then deadline day at 4:30 p.m., we give an extra 1 hour grace to make sure that everything is intact. And then we pull the application, sort them by alphabetical order, and that's what we do, basically. Sort them by stream where there are streams. And then...
And they're reviewed in alphabetical order?
Yes, absolutely. Reviewed in that way. That's how we share it to assessors. But assessors can decide, the first one I opened is really stressing me, I'm finding it hard to understand, they can go to the last one. They don't have to go in any particular order. So it's really, really, not in the order received. It's just until deadline, we don't pull applications. And then we don't even distribute it until after 2 to 7 days, because we have to gather them, make sure that all the links are working before we send them off. And make sure that they are all eligible before we send them off to assessors. So there is no order in that sense. Yeah. And what are my chances? Like they say, what if I get it, or what if I don't get it? These are just a few things, key questions in grants, and what are you writing about? And it starts with the what. You know yourself, you know your project, you know what it is you're working towards. You know the reason why you want to put up a project, you know the reason why you want to do this, make this film, you know your reasons. And that's why it's so important, especially for artists, I say, visualize your entire project from the start to the finish. Because that way it's easier to tell anybody about it. Like the verse that says, I can't remember how it goes, it says, write the vision, make it plain, so that everyone who reads it can run with it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with grants. Just, your vision has to be clear to you in a lot of ways. And that vision, you communicate it with, however, in writing. I find in feedback sessions for applicants who probably were not successful, I find that they speak more, you hear more about their project when you're talking to them face to face than what they have in the portal. Can anyone tell why that's possible? Because I'm also trying to figure it out.
Because human dialogue, we bounce off of each other.
Absolutely. Yes?
I was gonna say, like, for me, it's easier to communicate through, like, interactions because, like, a lot of times I don't know what words to use to, like, scramble them together and be like, this is gonna make sense.
Absolutely.
So when I can, like, actually talk to you about it, it makes it feel like, and it's more comfortable, as well as, too, like, it just feels more comfortable to, like, share my ideas with someone when we're talking rather than actually having to write it down and hope that they decipher it well.
Absolutely. And so, but this happens in feedback. We have also tried programs, especially with organizations, where we ask them present their project. And so the assessors are on Zoom screens, anonymous. We just put Kata all through on the screen, so you don't know who's reviewing, who's listening, or who's watching you. And then you present your application. We've also seen that as well, and we've seen that at the end, some of them are like, oh, I forgot to say something. I missed something. I forgot to do this. Oh, this isn't what I meant to say. There is pressure when it comes to anything that is like timed. So it's really difficult. But in feedback, when we're just chatting and like, oh, how do you feel? I feel bad. I didn't get the grant. Oh, tell me more about your project. And casually, they share so much depth, so much detail, so much planning with you right there. And you just wish you could carry that and just dump it on their phone. You just wish you could. And sometimes what I do, I've only done that once because I need to get permissions. I hit the record button and compare that to what they have in their application. If they submitted this, if they had this in their application, chances are they will get it. And so what I personally do, or did one time, was while driving in the car, talk to myself about my project. Because the most important thing is not the grant, it is the project you're trying to do. Because whether or not you get the grant, if this project is super important to you, it will come through, it would happen. And I know you need money to do it, but the money will come. Because I just feel like if you know this project so well, yes, there is only so much money, but there are also several other platforms and opportunities and ways, and there are chances that you can still get that grant. So what I did one time was put on my phone record while I was driving, and I started talking about the project casually, and I was driving. And it made it easier for me because when I went back to look at what I had written, I had missed a lot of important details that I shared so passionately. It is that truth. So I feel like this is not a formula, find what works for you, but what's most important is that project. Why do we make art? For connection, maybe. I don't know why it is for you, for some of you. And if you see, I put Y and Y across everything. What are you trying to do? You're trying to do an exhibition, or you're trying to create work for your tour. You're trying to create your fests, short film, whatever it is. Why? Why do you want to do this? And the why isn't one big reason. You don't have to say, oh, because I want to grow from 100 audience to 500. It doesn't have to be because I want to be able to tour 5 nations from 1 to 5. It could be as simple as just maintaining my artistic practice. I just want to stay active as an artist. Every project gives me an opportunity to work, gives me, reason to continue to dig into and keep my creative juice flowing. It could be as simple as that. And it could be big. It could be, I want to be able to touch down 5 cities. I want to be able to reach audiences abroad, outside of Canada. I want to export my work. It could be anything, but your why has to make sense to you. It has to be real for you. That's what I meant. So what are you trying to do? The question is why. For every single reason, there is a why. For every single question you see in there, as you're responding to that question, be thinking about the why. And so when are you trying to do this? When, the where, all of that comes with a why. I want to do it at the Central Library at the Patricia Wayland Hall. Why? Is it because it's accessible? Is it because now it's not as if assessors need to know all of this, but please, whether or not they need to know it, provide those whys. Thank you. Share your why. It's so super important. And then finally, who is involved in your project? Why? We've had organizations say they want to bring a dramaturg or a playwright or a director from, say, Mexico. Why? We're lacking playwrights and are we lacking them in Calgary? But they gave a very solid why. Because the play was written by this person. And for our organization, our artists, our directors are new, they're learning. And so learning from someone like them, learning from someone who's established, who also wrote the play, would give them an opportunity to try their hands and learn from a master, especially in the language they understand, in the practice they understand, for an audience they can relate with, for someone who has also done work with this type of audience. They give really solid reasons. It makes it easier. So just your why, generally speaking, is so important. And it can be anything. Same thing with Factor, Canada Council. Think about the whys. And sometimes your why is a simple thing. It's not a huge why. It's just simple, but it's true for you. When it's true for you, it's easy to communicate it. The main goal is you want to do a project. You have a project. You have an artistic work in hand. It's not the grant. The grant is going to facilitate that. It's going to make it possible. But beyond the grant, your project is king. Your project is the main thing. And so your why, your reasons, your impact, either artistic impact for yourself or community impact for your people or people that surround you, those whys are so important. I think I'm rounding up. Yes, and I was sharing earlier, when you get this email that says, oh, sorry, unfortunately, what do you do? Has anyone ever seen that email before? I'm glad I'm not alone here. I have seen that email twice, and how did you feel anyway? Oh, what was your response? Yeah?
I was disappointed, and I felt like the effort that I put into it was a waste of time.
I feel you. Thank you. Anyone else?
I just kind of immediately want to know why I didn't get accepted, but I remember when I did do that, it was also during, like, just after COVID when I hadn't got accepted, and they were able to give me feedback, which really helped for the next time, and it was just nice that they were able to, like, do that for us.
Awesome. Awesome. Yes?
Does feedback come after, is there an opportunity for feedback all the time?
With CADA, yes, all the time. Except for when we were stormed with 500 applications recently. But what we intend to do, what we're still working and brainstorming on, is to see how we can provide collective feedback, figuring out, and hoping that people can find themselves within those feedback. Do like a meeting, but pulling from most of the things that you know. But again, when you have a huge number of applications, it's not that your application wasn't good. It's just the fact that we had so many applications. But then I know you go on with the question, so how come some got funded? Yes.
And you get this many.
And yes, I hear you. But then it's a very tough one. But yes, I know Canada Council doesn't offer feedback, especially for the music program, because the numbers, they're serving the whole of Canada. That's a lot on their workforce. But we cater within, for now, in some areas we're able to still offer feedback. Yes?
Do you have a strategy for how to deal with the numbers that you have, like with regards to applications for next year? If you're overwhelmed with a similar number, do you have like more staffing or people to help out with regards to processing the quantity that you have to deal with?
Thank you so much. Yes, we're currently in that strategy season, and one of the thoughts we have, and we're actually implementing, is we're hiring, hopefully we're hiring 2 more brand specialists. We're also considering, we're not there yet, but considering a lottery system for the micro grant. And I know that's crazy. But then that's why we're only trying to test it for the micro grant. It's going to be a test, and that will come with a survey whether it should continue or not. Because the truth is, every project is valid. Every single project is valid. In fact, sometimes you fund a project or you don't fund a project, you know that this project means so much, not just to the artist, but to the community they would serve. So every project is valid. So how do you say yes to some and no to some? Maybe a lottery system will ease the trauma, because it's hard for us getting to that point where we have to walk down the amount and then stop and like money is finished and we're looking at so many other, it's a very tough place to be. Like for weeks we are sad as staff, we're quiet, it's a quiet office because we're seeing so many great projects. Sorry.
With the publicly funded organizations, is it like generally a requirement for them to post the approved applications and the amounts given? I know Factor has a list in that world, but like, I guess for more like provincial and just other organizations like that, is that like something that's
Yes.
required?
Absolutely.
So everyone has to do that?
Yes, the following year, I think with organizations, we didn't post the organizations. We don't list them for August. I believe, and I can double check, but we didn't for some reason. But we mentioned how much was given out and how many organizations were funded.
Would that information be available just for reference? I feel like looking at the Factor one was really insightful to see where the money's going. And I feel like if it's money that everyone's paying into, we should probably know where it's going, kind of, right? Not just being like, oh, we gave out 2 million to
Right.
secret people, right? So it's like, and also be like, maybe somebody's always getting it every year. Why is that person always getting it? You
Yeah.
know, just raises some questions.
I hear you. Sorry, let me take them first. Then I.
With CADA specifically, I know this question probably is answered different by every organization. Obviously, when you're getting 500 applications, it's very easy to kind of start having to skim and look for check boxes. Is there 1 or 2 check boxes that you know are usually kind of the ones that are very highly looked for in grants?
In applications?
Yeah, especially specifically from CADA.
Okay, and you're talking about assessors, because assessors do the scoring.
Yeah.
So we do have 4 questions most of the time, and one of them is focusing on the artistic impact of the project. One is focusing on the planning piece. So and that's like your budgeting, the timelines, and so you have people on the committee who are looking out for timelines mostly and budget. Making sure that the budget is true, but not true in that sense, but like some are looking out for the budget, say, will this amount of money be enough for what this person is trying to do? Will this timeline be sufficient for this person? And that is a big deal for some assessors. Budget, timeline, as well as sharing their goals, which is always around the why, mostly the why, like, I want to do this project, why? And it's not like they want to judge or score your why. It's just to know that you have personally built a reason, you have a design reason. Sometimes it could be true, sometimes it's not, but it's something an assessor can hold on to because it's part of the criteria they score on. The other piece is community impact. This project you're sharing, this project you're about to do, how many people will benefit from it? How many artists are working with you or get paid or get impacted by it? How much is your community, no matter how small? Do you even know your community? Because you can't say, I make art for everybody. Like, do you know your core? So those are the things that assessors are looking for. And again, supporting document. And it goes to planning. Planning is a major piece. So after you've written about your project, what you want to do, why you want to do it, how about your planning? Do you know what it really takes to do this, to complete this project? So for assessors, they want to see that at the end of reading your application, they can tell that if you get funded, you will successfully complete this project, as you've said. And so they're checking numbers, they're checking days, how long will it take, how long, if you say you're doing a film project, especially the film guys, they kind of, and then you have some people in the committee arguing and saying, no, this artist can actually do it. I have seen them do it before, or I know them, or I do not know them, but I feel like with their track record, with the stuff they put in the application, they can actually do it. And so that's why we always have several perspectives, within each committee. So those are part of the things. I think planning is a big piece. With your planning comes your support document. Support document could be invoices, quotes, and videos of your work, or director's reel, what you've done in the past, track records, just anything to show, to give them, because sometimes they don't even know you, they don't know who is applying, but everything you share with them is what helps them connect to you. Links to your website, links to your work, all of those things help them understand that you can do that.
And maybe just one quick follow-up question about that. You mentioned, obviously, we've seen this artist do this before. how many of the grants, you can give an approximate number, are artists who have received the same grant before versus artists who have their brand new application? You've never seen it before.
I cannot give you a percentage, but we're currently doing a survey to work on that, because it's really important for us, because since last year, CADA is really concerned about that impact. How much of new applicants are actually accessing funds? And yes, we know there is a barrier because the new applicants may miss out some things. They may miss out details on the budget. They'll have a different number on the buddy, then they'll have a different number in the actual budget. Sometimes they are missing timelines, or the timeline's too small, too short for such a huge project, and it's their first time, they've never done it before. But you also have people in the committee arguing and saying, if you don't give them a chance to do this, how do you then know that they can do it? It's their first time. So if you give them a chance, then they can do it. Or they can fail, but they will fail and learn something. Then next year they can come back and say they learned something, and then you know them. So you just have that. And so in terms of percentages, I do not know. I do not have the number, but that's a big deal for CADA, which is part of the reasons we saw the 500 applications. We reached out to so many people who had never applied before, encouraging them, like going out into the community. So in terms of success rate, we've seen a lot of new artists access grants this year than ever before, but I do not have a number, and I can get that for you. Yes.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my comment. I've been really trying to crack the code of Factor, and I find that once you get in and you figure out that puzzle, then you can rinse and repeat.
Right.
So yeah, I was wondering if you prioritize new applicants every single year, so then once they kind of get in, if they can rinse and repeat, if you place a new priority to
that's a big deal for us, and I think one of the ways we're trying to work on that, we're not fully finalized, is streaming, so that there is a stream for emerging artists. Our artists would never access grants before, because it's a big deal. It's hard to put a new artist, match them beside someone who's been getting grants for years. And we cannot punish an artist because they've been getting grants for years. If an artist needs grants to continue their work, we can't say, because you've gotten grants before, but you've been getting grants, we will say no. If you hit the number and it gets to you, we always kind of almost frown at that, but we know that we cannot punish an artist for being able to put together a grant. Neither can we, encourage that barrier that doesn't allow new artists to access grants. So finding that balance is where we are at the moment. So it's a tough place to be, honestly. It is a tough place to be. A new artist, most of the time, so many things are missing in their applications, and that's why part of the things I will share going on is, did you know? Sorry, yes, please.
Sorry, quick question. If you apply for different grant bodies for the same project, would that help or hurt in CADA's eyes? So if you were Canada Council approved your project and I went to CADA and I was I would just some more supplemental to support this project. Is that I know it's okay because a lot of times when I see the big vinyls, they have a whole list of things at the bottom of how they were funded, but in CADA's eyes, does that help or hurt if you already have money?
Yeah, it's okay. It's actually okay, but again, assessors are humans, and I've heard this conversation come up, and it's on two sides. Sometimes when you see pending, they're asking for money from CADA, they're asking for money from Canada Council, AFA, and all these requests are pending. They don't have, none is approved. Some assessors are what if we give them funding and they don't get the other funding? What happens to the project? And on the flip side, when you have the confirm, some assessors are they already have so much money. Why should we give them more money? And we have so many other artists who do not have money. So it's, to be honest, when you serve as an assessor, you will understand this thing that assessors are going through. It's a tough place to be. And so it's on both sides, but we always have that judgment call, and we always center intentions. We always remind assessors, we're not here to punish any artists for having so much money. And if you give an artist, because their project is good and they've responded to all your questions, You cannot punish them because they have pending. Because if they become successful with CADA, then they have one. And then maybe they can write to other grant organizations and come out strong because they have CADA approved as well. So having that balance is one of the things we share with the assessors. So you know that, just take your eyes off that. Focus on the project. Focus on scoring the application. Fund it because it is worth funding and because it is fundable, like there's still money in the pocket to that level where they are. So fund it. Don't hold back funding because you feel like, oh, they are getting penned, they don't have other funding, or because they have too much funding. Just let it flow. And so that's one of the things we keep saying to assessors. But true, it comes up. It's also a bias, and we encourage assessors to always share that bias. It is a bias that some assessors have identified, and we walk through it.
Sorry, I don't know if you maybe answered this before I came in, but about how many assessors would assess each project?
5 to 7.
5 to 7, okay.
Yes. And someone asked it before, so
Oh,
it's fine.
thank you.
It's fine. It's great. Thank you. Sorry, you? Yeah.
So, I'm hearing so many different perspectives on how much do I apply for. Is it good to apply for the max? Like, especially if you know that you could use it. You know you'll use it all, but I've also heard the perspective of you're trying to build a relationship with the granting bodies. It takes time. If you ask for the max, it'll be looked bad upon. So, you know, and I just heard so many different thoughts on that, and I would love kind of yours, like, is there a sweet spot? Are you looked at as greedy, or are you going to miss an opportunity by not asking for what you really need?
Yes, I hear you. And you're sharing some assessors' bias too right now. You're sharing some of, and I say bias because bias is a big deal. And that's one of the things we because assessors are human beings. Like, they're artists like you. And so in their minds, you're thinking of the 50 other applications they've read that won't get funded. So those things come up. But no, the simple answer to that question is ask for what you need, especially if it's within the range. What you need. By need, I'm saying you don't ask because you could use the money, but no, like in terms of your planning, that's why visualizing your entire project. What do I need for my project? Just be very honest. So you're getting quotes, you're putting it there. And so even if it exceeds it, you're putting it right there as is and asking for what. If it exceeds the max, you're asking for the max.
Right.
And then finding other, letting the organization know that I don't have this. However, I'm writing to this organization pending, or I'm getting donations from other people pending. If you need only 5,000 out of 25,000, focus on just getting your 5,000. And I know an organization reached out recently to ask that same question. Can I just ask for 2 years, this year and next year? And I'm like, that's tough. Can you just focus on 1 year?
Right.
Because it's easier to just
do that. So if like you're doing a jump, like maybe you did think, okay, I asked for, say the max is 50 or something, you're asking for 15, it wasn't enough, maybe you're at the end of the year, you were able to do your project, it wasn't as financially like successful, so it might not look good the next year, but you're gonna ask for more.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a discrepancy between years and you're like, we tried that, we realized to fulfill it, it's needs more. Is that something that you encourage to explain in the follow-up?
Exactly, yes.
Like, this is why we're asking for such a different number this time?
Exactly. However, know that it probably is not the same committee that reviewed the application the year before that we'll be reviewing this year. Might be entirely different set of people. So, because I did Canada Council first year, but the second year was about 5,000 more. I got both of them and no questions because it's different people. And just be honest. And explaining, oh, my budget is more this year. That's if you're sharing. They're not even looking. If you can get quotes for the new year, you're saying, this is my quote. This is what the photographer, the videographer has quoted. This is what my lead artist. This is what my director is quoting, and this is. Just being honest about it. And I'm not sure if I finished answering your question. Again, I know in relation to that question, some people wonder if you can pull from different organizations. Especially when we notice this scarcity or this insufficiency within the industry. We encourage artists. I personally and my team members do that. So I'm not saying this in the name of CADA. I've never done that, but if you apply to CADA, you haven't heard from CADA, and AFA is coming up, deadline, you can apply for the same thing. Because what's important to you is getting your project done. However, when CADA's report result comes out and you've been funded, you can now write to AFA and say, oh, it's AFA, I actually just got funded by CADA, so you can cancel my funding. And that's because the point is, you might be lucky, you may not get it with CADA, you just shut it down and just hope you get it from AFA and you can still do your project. But if you get it from CADA, then you can reach out to AFA right away and say, I already have this funding, thank you so much, and they'll pull it out, and that's it. All right? Yes, please?
Another quick question.
Yeah.
If you get an extension, does that hurt your chances next time you apply?
No, not at all. Extension is just, it's just something like assessors are not even aware of that. And we don't even say anything to them when we give extensions. It's just within staff, we're trying to make sure that every person is able to complete their application, because life happens, anything can happen. And someone like me that sometimes I wait till the last minute, internet could shut down that last minute, and I'm like, please can you just give me 2 more hours? It doesn't hurt your application. Yeah?
Just as an extension of that budget question, if like the reality of your project is that the budget is like, say we're working with that 15 grand max, and say your project budget reaches 30, is it better in knowing that that's like inflated above what the grant is available for to include all of those line items and include all that detail, or is it better to limit the scope of that and like only apply for things within the 15?
No, I wouldn't encourage you to limit the scope, because it would raise questions. So if you're like an animator in the animation world, and there is someone on the team, and you're seeing the amount of work that you're supposed to be able to do with that project,
Exactly.
yeah, especially when if it's easy, like you can break it down in phases, please do.
Right.
So you can say phase 1, I'm only applying for phase 1, but phase 2, you can summarize phase 2 and phase 3 and say, I'm only focusing on phase 1 because of funding, that's fine. But don't try to shrink it to say, okay, let me just ask for 15K.
Yeah.
Be honest, be straightforward. Know that people in the on the committee are also practitioners, and they're like, no, this will not be enough, or what happens after this? They want to know more, so you have to just give them that full picture. And I quickly want to mention, help is available. If you've never written grants or you have challenges with language or the entire process, I'm so sorry. That's strange. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Forgive me, please. Yes, so if you have never done that before, you can access help. You can write to us and say, I don't know how to write grants. I've written 3 times before, I've never been successful. Can I get help? If you know a grant writer, you can reach out to a grant writer. And let us know before the process starts and send us their quote. I think maximum of 300 to 500, I'm not sure, but just check in with us. There's also provision for if you have an accessibility challenge, whatever it is, you can reach out and say, can I get help with my grant writing? It could be anything. Just reach out to get clarity and say, yes, you can. Just send us the invoice when this person is done, or let us know ahead of time how much it's going to cost so we can have that prepared for. So there is help available. And I know a lot of people just write their grants personally, quietly, on their own. You can actually reach out to say, before the deadline, and reach out and say, here's a draft of my grant. Can you help me review it? At least 2 weeks before the deadline. Including Canada Council, they will respond to you. AFA has responded to me. Sometimes they will say, oh, it looks good. But at least you got a second eye or third eye. Sometimes after that, you still may not get the grant. Yes. But at least you got a third eye or second eye to view your grant. So don't hold back from reaching out. Like I shared, when I got my unsuccessful email, I didn't reach out for feedback because I was just too embarrassed to try. But I realized as I give feedback, I find that it's actually very good to get feedback on your application, because it might just be one thing. Some people would not attach or share a link to their work. How will assessors know if they've never met you? But when you share your website or your YouTube page and they can go there and see your work and they're like, oh, this is amazing, I want to see this project happen. You probably don't expect they should respond that way, but we are humans. Sometimes what we see helps us connect all the dots. So sharing samples of your work, awards, whatever it is you've received in the past, anything at all that can just help artists, assessors know you better. It's not about judging you, it's just getting to know more about you and your work. Yes, please.
So on the submitting an invoice to you, if you hire a grant writer, I don't want to assume, is that only for successful grant receivers?
Oh, not at all. If you're having challenges, you just have to reach out to us and get clarity.
The refund, the invoice, you paying for it?
Yes, we pay directly to the person.
Regardless of the grant being successful to
Oh
the...
yes, because that's even done before the grant results come out. And that's for accommodation, accessibility, and application assistance. Whatever it is, just reach out to us so that you tell us your reasons and why you're reaching out to this person, and those things are considered. For the most part, we've never said no. It's just that I think there's a cap for the budget for that. Yeah. Yes, please.
I just wanted to ask before, like, we moved on from the applications, is, like, for music specifically, do you know what supporting documents you would require for, like, if you're doing, like, a music project? Because I know for, like, film projects, they want to know your script or your outline for your script, or anything with theater, they want to know if you're in production with something, like, that has, like, a story already. For music, do you know what they require?
Pretty much similar. Okay. So if you're trying to record an album, sample of a demo, if you have a demo of anything, could be 1 track or 2 tracks, you don't have to upload all the tracks. Lyrics, because one of the things grant bodies are always looking out for is content of what you're putting out, to make sure that it's morally safe in a way. Also, quotes, if you're doing a concert, quotes from the venue, quotes from your technicians, your budgets and all of that. And also, if you're touring, confirmation from the venues, confirmation from your agent or your booker or whatever it is. So it depends on what kind of music projects you're doing. Invoices from every contributing vendor or supplier or whatever it is you're working with. Just anything that just helps your... Why is this? There's so many things you can put up there. And then also as a musician, whether or not you are doing a concert or recording an album, if you've released the work before, please share the link. In fact, even if you're asking for money to go for a residency, even if it's the microgrants that we offer, please share a clip of what you've done before. Even if it's a small 5-second, 10-minute, please put it there, because it just helps assessors connect to you, at least get to know you, because they don't know everyone. In some cases, they'll be like, oh, I know this artist, oh, I've heard this artist. In some cases, they don't know the artist, but they see your work and they're like, did you watch the video? It was so much fun to see. So anything you have, just help assessors get to know you. Okay? Yes, please.
I just had one question. My most recent application for a grant, I received an email telling me that I unfortunately was unsuccessful after the project would have concluded. And I assume it's because of how many applications you had. Do you have a target for how long from the deadline of submission you look to address grants?
Yes.
Because that one, and I understand you had so many, but that was like around 5 or 6 months after the deadline is when I received the email saying, unfortunately, like, I received the email to say we've had so many applications, or taking a long time to process them, and then it was like, I can't remember.
So it was pushed back. I think it was the one where Taylor was the one we got from 300 to 500 and something. We were clearly not prepared.
Yeah, my project was like June to August, and I received it like in September. We're like, oh, sorry, we can't fund this. Like,
yeah. So yes, typically 8 weeks.
Around 8 weeks.
Yes, because when we close, when it's shut down after the deadline, it takes me about a week, or any grant specialist about a week, to review, make sure that everything is eligible, make sure your links are correct, make sure it's in the right stream. About a week, and then we are also reading your application to see that, and then that it's easy, like if there's any question, something missing, then we forward that to, we move it from submitted to pending assessment. It takes about a week, sometimes 2 weeks max. And then we share it, move it over to assessors, and then we give them at least 4 weeks to review per committee. So 4 weeks for them to review, and then we have meetings. In my case, about 3 weeks.
Cool. So approximately 8 weeks from the
8 weeks.
submission.
Yeah.
Good to
And
know.
so,
Thank you.
and so results go out. Yeah, that's again, what to do, reach out, please. That's our job, that's what we're paid for. Literally, we're paid with taxpayers' money, so you're paying us. So reach out. It's your right to ask questions. It's understandable for Canada Council because of the volume of applications to see. It's hard. It's going to be impossible for them to give feedback. But at the same time, when I reach out with questions, they respond. So please know that they are humans and they are there to support you. Every grants officer they're super warm and ready to support you. So please don't feel like, oh, I'll be bothering them. No, bother them. That's what they're there for. That's what we're there for. So please feel free to reach out. Don't hold back. Get every help you can. Because the most important thing, again, is your project. The world needs to see your project. We need to experience your art. And you need funding to do that. And to get funding, you need all the support you need to get to put forward a solid application. And by a solid application, we're not saying write a story. Just put everything in that needs to be there. Respond to the whys. Think about a why. Like if you're writing an application, you feel like they may wonder why. Please put the why. Or they may ask you. If you feel like a question may pop up from any line, please put that. It's been, we've already done questions. Honestly, I have learned so much chatting with you, and I have taken a lot. Some of the questions you've asked, for me, is feedback that I feel like I need to share with the team. Questions like newcomer, like how do you share something about newcomers or new artists accessing grants? That is a big deal for us. That's something we're constantly trying to, we cannot totally end it, but there are measures and things we're strategizing and contemplating, exploring. It may work, it may not work, but we'll keep trying, because the important thing is we cannot say no to existing artists. It will be punishment. I asked for Canada Council's grant for my second concert. They funded. Third concert, they funded. If they said to me at the third time to say, oh no, because we funded you last year, we cannot fund you this year. For me, it's punishment. Or because we have so many people who have never accessed grants. I won't feel bad because, again, like I said, I'm coming from a place where grants does not, in a way, exist. I will still be grateful, I'll be thankful. But for the artists, for the journey of an artist, you know how we grow. You know what's happening. You know what it means. You do this one, take this one step, next step, third step. It just helps you keep growing, keep creating, stay active as an artist. So we cannot say no to an artist because it's successful every time. But what we can do is find ways to ensure that new artists are coming to the pool and new people are introduced to that. And hopefully that our established artists can become patrons or become givers and whatever it is, whatever options there are. But most importantly, grants are available to you. And yes, you may not be successful the first time, but I'll encourage you, find all the help you can get. Seek support and do the best you can to put forward an application. You can actually access grants. It's possible. It's very, very possible. Just reach out for help. All right, any final questions? Otherwise, we're 10 minutes later, and thank you so much. We appreciate it.